If you look at many modern conflicts, one question keeps appearing again and again. Why do some wars last so long? On paper, many of these wars should end quickly. When a powerful country enters a conflict with advanced weapons, massive resources, and a strong military, most people assume the war will be over within weeks or months. This is especially true in conflicts where the imbalance of power is very clear. Take the conflict between the United States and Iran as an example. The United States possesses some of the most advanced military technology in the world. Its air power, intelligence systems, and global alliances give it enormous advantages. So naturally, many people expect that such a war should be resolved quickly. But history shows that wars like this often turn into long, exhausting conflicts. To understand why, we need to look at the hidden logic behind long wars. Powerful countries almost always prefer short wars. Their entire military system is designed around the idea of achieving quick, decisive victories. For a country like the United States, modern warfare relies heavily on advanced technology. Precision airstrikes, satellites, intelligence networks, and highly sophisticated weapons are meant to overwhelm the enemy quickly. The goal is to strike fast, destroy key targets, and force the opponent to surrender before the conflict drags on. But the longer a war continues, the more difficult the situation becomes for the stronger power. Long wars are extremely expensive. Advanced weapons cost billions of dollars. Military operations require enormous logistical support, and equipment must constantly be replaced. At the same time, public pressure at home begins to grow. Citizens start asking why the war is continuing and whether it is worth the cost. Casualties also become politically sensitive. If soldiers continue returning home in coffins, public support can collapse very quickly. This is why powerful countries usually want to end wars as fast as possible. But from the perspective of the weaker country, the logic of war looks completely different. A country like Iran understands that it cannot defeat the United States in a direct, conventional battle. It cannot match American air power, military technology, or economic resources. If Iran tried to fight the United States on those terms, the war could end very quickly. So the weaker side changes the strategy entirely. Instead of seeking a decisive battlefield victory, the goal becomes survival. The weaker country focuses on staying in the fight for as long as possible. Every day the conflict continues, the stronger power is forced to spend more money, more resources, and more political energy. In other words, time becomes a weapon. The longer the war lasts, the more pressure builds inside the stronger country, economically, politically, and socially. Meanwhile, the weaker side does not need to defeat the stronger power outright. It only needs to keep resisting and avoid collapse. This is the key strategic shift that defines long wars. Once the weaker side accepts that it cannot win quickly, it begins to use time itself as a strategic weapon. Every month that the war continues, the stronger power is forced to spend enormous resources. Military equipment must be repaired or replaced, weapons must be produced, and troops must remain deployed far from home. The financial cost of maintaining such operations can grow into billions of dollars. At the same time, political pressure inside the stronger country slowly increases. Citizens begin questioning why the war is still happening. Politicians start arguing with each other about strategy, and public support can begin to weaken. Meanwhile, the weaker country often faces a different reality. Its people may already expect hardship and sacrifice, especially if they believe they are defending their homeland. So the strategy becomes simple. Do not lose quickly. By prolonging the conflict and forcing the stronger power to remain engaged, the weaker side gradually shifts the balance of pressure, turning time into one of its most powerful weapons. One of the most effective ways a weaker country can prolong a war is through guerrilla warfare. Instead of fighting large conventional battles, the weaker side avoids direct confrontation. It focuses on small, unpredictable attacks that make it difficult for the stronger power to secure a clear victory. The goal is not to destroy the enemy's army in one decisive moment, but to constantly disrupt and frustrate its operations. Guerrilla warfare also takes advantage of geography. Mountains, deserts, and complex terrain make it extremely difficult for a powerful military to fully control an area. Iran, for example, is a vast and mountainous country. Its terrain naturally favors defensive strategies and makes large-scale occupation extremely challenging. In this type of conflict, the weaker side does not need to win major battles. It simply needs to remain active, strike when opportunities appear, and disappear before the stronger power can respond effectively. Over time, this constant pressure slowly drains the resources and patience of the stronger opponent. As the war continues, the pressure on the stronger power begins to grow in ways that are not always visible on the battlefield. First, the financial cost becomes enormous. Modern warfare is extremely expensive, especially for a country that relies heavily on advanced technology. Maintaining aircraft, supplying bases, transporting equipment, and replacing weapons all require vast amounts of money. Second, political pressure begins to rise at home. Citizens may initially support a military campaign, but that support can weaken over time if the war drags on without clear progress. Political leaders begin facing criticism. Opposition parties demand answers, and divisions inside the government can deepen. Third, casualties become a major issue. Even a small number of military losses can have a powerful emotional impact on the public. Images of soldiers returning home in coffins can quickly shift public opinion. As these pressures build, the stronger country may begin looking for ways to end the conflict, even if it has not achieved complete victory. While pressure increases inside the stronger country, something very different can happen inside the weaker one. When a powerful external enemy attacks, internal divisions within the defending society often begin to fade. Political disagreements, social tensions, and economic frustrations may temporarily become less important. The focus shifts toward a shared goal, defending the country. In Iran's case, this dynamic can be particularly powerful. Iran is a country with a long and deep civilizational history. Many Iranians see themselves as part of a civilization that goes back thousands of years. When an external threat appears, that sense of identity can become a strong source of unity. People who might normally disagree with the government can still unite around the idea of defending their homeland. National pride, cultural identity, and the fear of losing sovereignty can create a powerful sense of cohesion. This unity can make a society far more resilient than outsiders expect. Instead of weakening the country, external pressure can sometimes strengthen the population's determination to resist. Powerful countries often try to end long wars by increasing pressure on their opponent. This can include airstrikes, economic sanctions, and attempts to weaken the enemy's political system from within. The idea is simple. If enough pressure is applied, the weaker country will eventually collapse. But in some cases, this strategy can actually produce the opposite result. When cities are bombed, infrastructure is damaged, and economic hardship spreads, people may become even more determined to resist. Instead of blaming their own government, many citizens begin to see the outside power as the main threat. This can strengthen national identity and increase support for resistance. Attempts to create internal divisions can also backfire. Efforts to encourage rebellions or destabilize the country may trigger the opposite reaction, pushing different groups to unite against a common external enemy. In this way, strategies meant to weaken the weaker state can sometimes make it stronger, reinforcing the very resilience that allows it to continue the war. When we step back and look at conflicts like the one between the United States and Iran, we begin to see that long wars follow a very different logic than short wars. Victory is not always decided by who has the strongest military or the most advanced technology. In many cases, the decisive factor is endurance. The weaker country may not need to defeat the stronger power outright. It only needs to survive long enough for the stronger side's internal pressures to grow. As the war drags on, costs rise, political divisions deepen, and public support can begin to weaken inside the stronger state. Meanwhile, the defending country may grow more unified and determined. This is the hidden logic behind many prolonged conflicts. In long wars, survival itself becomes a strategy, and sometimes that is enough to challenge even the most powerful empires.